understand that one of the complications is the Europeans, who are very dependent on the Russians for energy supply and business relationships. But they also need to recognize that if Putin is not stopped now, we could find ourselves in a real conflict with Russia down the road.
Well, actually, let me jump in right there. Germany, arguably the strongest power in Europe, at least economically. Right. There's been criticism that Angela Merkel and others haven't been aggressive enough. What do you think of that? Do you think Germany's been as aggressive as they should be?
I'm quite an admirer of Chancellor Merkel, and I heard her statement when she was with President Obama in Washington. I thought it was a very good statement. But now we need to have tougher sanctions, and I'm afraid at some point this is going to probably have to involve oil and gas. The Russian economy is vulnerable. 80% of Russian exports are in oil, gas, and minerals. People say, well, the Europeans will run out of energy. Well, the Russians will run out of cash before the Europeans run out of energy. I understand that it's uncomfortable to have an effect on business ties in this way, but this is one of the few instruments that we have. Over the long run, you simply want to change the structure of energy dependence. You want to depend more on the North American energy platform,
America has pissed off the rest of the world.
Yeah, yes.
We've been the bully. We've been the bully with this thing. We're now a credit-based economy. In other words, we print fake money and we spread it throughout the world. But the rest of the world is actually producing the food, the gold, the silver, the machinery, and all this. So finally, the rest of the world said, enough's enough. So I remember years ago, because I operate in South Africa a lot. I love South Africa. But they joined the BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. That was the original BRICS. Now they're gaining force and momentum, and I think people have heard the word BRICS, but very few people know. ¿Qué pasa? What caused the BRICS to form, Andy? What does it mean to us? Because otherwise, so what, you know?
Right. Well, and I think by the end of this discussion, people will certainly understand it. But you're right. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa comprise the BRICS, and these are countries that are uniting in common interests and doing it without the bullying, if you will, of the Western hegemony. And they're beginning to set themselves apart from the rest of the world. And, you know, what really started me, my awareness to this was the rise of the Chinese Belt Road and Rail Initiative, which is the largest infrastructure and human project.
Wait, Andy, go back to the BRICS. What does it mean? Because we go into the Belt and Road, we're going to lose a lot of people right now because that's a whole nother discussion. But what is a BRICS? What does it mean? Why do you think they're so important today? I mean, they're the most powerful force in the world today.
Talking about the Belt Road is this coalition of countries standing up against the Western hegemony. And that's really what it is. And, you know, it's not just Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. You have well over a dozen countries that have already applied, such as Algeria and Argentina and Iran, the United Arab Emirates, Nicaragua, Turkey, Indonesia, Senegal, Nigeria, Afghanistan, Egypt, Kazakhstan, and the biggest one of all, Saudi Arabia. about this growing cohesion of countries, there are others that they're already set their eyes on. And in Brazil's backyard, you have Argentina, you have Algeria, Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, as we just talked about, the United Arab Emirates, Nigeria, Senegal, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, India, Indonesia, Thailand, all of these countries and their neighbors that are growing together are forming a massive, very imposing, not only from a GDP, but you put all these countries together and their military might is very, very strong as well. And they're talking, those are the BRICS plus. Now they're talking about adding more countries, including Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Panama, Bolivia, Chile, Cuba, Ecuador, Peru, Uruguay, Venezuela, Azerbaijan, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam. The list goes on and on and on.
So what that means is right now they're dealing in this.
Correct.
In 1944, this became the reserve currency of the world right after World War II at the Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Like I said, this is toilet paper today because this is now fake money. So the rest of the world is saying, enough of you sending us your toilet paper.
That's exactly right.
You take our materials, you take our production, you take this, and you send us this trash here. So that's what Andy is talking about is so crucial. The average person can't see it.
Today, 17th of March 2023, the International Criminal Court has issued 2 warrants of arrest in the Ukraine situation for Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, and for Maria Lvova-Belova, Commissioner of the Russian President for Children's Rights, for the alleged war crimes of deportation of children from Ukrainian occupied territories into the Russian Federation.
It has to be recognised that issuing an indictment against a sitting head of state in the midst of an armed conflict is to some extent affecting the conduct or aimed to affect the conduct of those involved. In other words, this is clearly the first shot in what might be eventually a much more substantial indictment against President Putin.
The International Criminal Court has now issued an arrest warrant against Russia's President Vladimir Putin, accusing him of being responsible for war crimes committed in Ukraine.
Now, let's return to the news that's broken this afternoon with the International Criminal Court issuing an arrest warrant for President Vladimir Putin for the alleged trafficking of children from Russian-occupied parts of Ukraine.
Literally any day now, the ICC may announce the start of a formal investigation against these American patriots who voluntarily signed on to go into harm's way to protect our nation, our homes, and our families in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. The ICC prosecutor has requested to investigate these Americans for alleged detainee abuse, and perhaps more. An utterly unfounded, unjustifiable investigation. Today, on the eve of September the 11th, I want to deliver a clear and unambiguous message on behalf of the President of the United States. The United States will use any means necessary to protect our citizens and those of our allies from unjust prosecution by this illegitimate court. We will not cooperate with the ICC. We will provide no assistance to the ICC, and we certainly will not join the ICC.
It is obvious that American business can become the locomotive that will once again push forward global economic growth. We have already managed to attract attention and have cooperation with such giants of the international financial and investment world as BlackRock, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs.
I can reassure the members of the committee that our banking system is sound and that Americans can feel confident that their deposits will be there when they need them. This week's actions demonstrate our resolute commitment to ensure that our financial system remains strong.
What is 2023 going to look like for the average consumer?
So I believe inflation will be lower. I am very hopeful that the labor market will remain quite healthy so that people can feel good about their finances.
For some, it carries a sense of short-lived, and that's you know, there's a real time component measured in months, or let's say. Really, for us, what transitory has meant is that if something is transitory, it will not leave behind it permanently or very persistently higher inflation. So that's why we took a step back from transitory. We said expected to be transitory, first of all, to show uncertainty around that. We've always said that, by the way, in other contexts. We just hadn't done it in the statement. But also to acknowledge, really, that it means different things to different people.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it.